In this video, I'll be talking through 5 running backs. I'll be sitting for Week 8 fantasy football. If you're new around here, my name's Gavin. You guys are watching the SFS channel. I'm here to be an interactive tool and resource for you guys this season to help you out and win your league. So, by all means, any start-sit questions you have for me are welcome in the comment section below. And with that said, let's dive in. All right, here we go. So before I dive into Michael Carter, we're going to recap our picks from last week in the sits episode. We always pick 5. Sometimes it gets cut down to 4. A very rare instance, we get 3 if a player's injured or some significant circumstance changes our thought process posting this episode. So last week, we hit the threshold is 10 points or below in half PPR. We barely hit on CEH and B-Rob. CEH scored a touchdown and literally did next to nothing aside from that. B-Rob just fell a few tenths of a point short from 10 points, so that was a very near miss for us. J-Rob, though, and Melvin Gordon were basically irrelevant in their matchups this week and were terrible starts if that ended up being the case. So the one difference that we didn't have 5 was J.K. Dobbins getting ruled out here. So Gus Bus came in and did well. Our take, though, last week was that if he did play and he ended up landing on IR after posting the episode, was the fact that he wasn't going to see a full touch count and he was going to have other guys eating up his workload and opportunities there. So 404 last week. Moving into Michael Carter here, the Jets taking on the Patriots for this week. There is nothing fancy about this take aside from the fact that they just traded for James Robinson. Now, as opposed to Christian McCaffrey being traded for on a Thursday night, literally after Thursday Night Football, turning around and playing on Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs and playing 28% of the snap share, James Robinson had he's got the whole week here to prepare. Now, he got traded for on Monday, so this team kind of has the expectation that going in, he's going to be maybe 45-50% involved in terms of his overall usage for this offense. So I'm excited to see how he factors into this offense. The reason I talk about James Robinson to analyze Michael Carter here is this obviously has a big impact on his usage level in this offense. Now, Carter might still see the highest snap count percentage this week. He might still get the most work. And if he somehow scores a touchdown or makes a big play here, this is going to be wrong, but that's, of course, the risk here for every episode and having these sit takes. So basically, my expectation is that James Robinson is the RB1 in this offense. I think that he has a better shot to play a higher workload as opposed to a guy like last week, seeing a CMC in a similar trade scenario. So Carter versus the Pats, not playing him here. Melvin Gordon taking on Jacksonville. It's technically a home game for the Jags. Obviously there's all the talk about them potentially moving to London, or at least that's kind of a talk that's been had in recent years. But Gordon here, like I said, so it's not really a home or road game. It is an overseas game where all these teams, both of these teams, it's only 2 teams, are going to be traveling and having that same kind of travel fatigue here, that jet lag, if you will. So that doesn't matter too much for me. What does is the usage in this Broncos offense and the inept ability to consistently produce here. So we all know the issues. I don't need to beat a dead horse here. Denver, A, can't score points. They can't move the ball down the field. And B, Melvin Gordon's just in a committee right now. You've got a situation where Mike Boone's on the IR that helps him out a little bit here. But Latavius Murray has still taken a bigger piece of the pie than I'd love to see him take here. And in this last week, he only had a 51% snap share, this being Melvin Gordon, and created just 50 yards on 15 touches. So not enough efficiency, not enough goal line opportunities, not enough overall offensive output to be confident in him here. And the Jags, while they're not the most stifling unit against the run, this is a team that has a very good defensive line, and I think still creates somewhat of a mismatch against this Broncos front. Brian Robinson, we had him as a sit last week against the Indianapolis Colts this week, the 21st ranked unit against opposing fantasy football running backs. Now, this is another running back by committee style offense. You've got J.D. McKissick and Antonio Gibson taking shares and snaps of this offensive workload. 39% for Gibson last week, 16% for McKissick, 47% for Brian Robinson. So I really just don't feel comfortable starting a running back having a below 50% snap share. Now, we've seen one exception this year. Before the injury, it was Najee Harris who was able to get that job done around 42 to 47% on a per-week basis, but I'm not betting on that here. The efficiency hasn't been good enough. 20 rushing attempts for 73 yards this week, 86 yards from scrimmage, 2 receptions, tacking on that additional yardage there. And really what it comes down to is touchdown or bust. And I just don't feel confident enough to bet on Brian Robinson in a Commander-led offense here to get that done for him at the end of the week. So for me, this is a weaker matchup. So you're looking at a situation where the opportunity for increased efficiency is there, but I'm still not willing to bet on the fact that he does break in the end zone and score a touchdown when I feel like there's a lot of other dynamics at play here, especially with the other players getting snaps and touches. In this offense, Najee Harris, Pittsburgh, traveling on the road to play Philadelphia. I hate to pick on Najee Harris week after week after week here, but I saw a stat, and it's been circling around just the NFL, not even the fantasy community, the NFL community at large. Less rushing yards than Daniel Jones for Najee Harris here, and fewer receiving yards than Kyle Juszczyk of the San Francisco 49ers, a fullback. So production has been very scarce, few and far between here, extremely underwhelming. Philadelphia is just 14th against fantasy running backs. However, Pittsburgh's a 10.5-point underdog. So game script, you're expecting to be absolutely phenomenally poor. I don't know where I was going with that. Trash. It's going to be a terrible game script for the Steelers, and you'd expect that. Philly's coming off of a bye here. They're getting healthier. They're more well-rested. And while I was wrong about this take in a similar situation for a Cooper Rush-led Dallas offense for Ezekiel Elliott's purposes, I think that Kenny Pickett is even more sketchy and suspect at this point in time in terms of producing for others. So for Najee Harris, for your Deontay Johnsons of the world, this worries and concerns me, and I don't like what that means for Harris's outlook again this week. Like the schedule has just been brutal for him. He had Tampa Bay, and on the schedule after they played, was it San Francisco? I forget their schedule already, but I just know week after week, I feel like the opposing matchup for this team is just terrible, and I don't like it. So he's going to need a touchdown, just like our guy Brian Robinson here. He's only had 4+ yards per carry one time this season. And like I said, I was wrong about this take with Zeke. He averaged over 6 yards per carry, but this O-line against Philly's D-line, it's a bigger discrepancy than it was between Dallas and Philly that particular game. Bad situation here. And then David Montgomery at Dallas this week. They are the third most difficult unit to score points on for the running back position. So a very stifling group there. Chicago's a 9.5-point underdog now. I think that number's going to come down a little bit. I don't know if they'll win by that much, that being the Cowboys. But I do think that it was at least encouraging for Bears fans to see that Monday Night Football performance in a standalone contest. Regardless, this matchup here comes down to the fact that we're seeing so many other players touch the ball and be effective with it. I think that lowers David's fantasy stock here. This is a guy that had 12 carries go to Khalil Herbert. Now, yes, some of it was mop-up duty. They're up big. Was it 33-15? So it's just whenever Herbert touches the ball, he's very good. Like, he deserves the touches that he gets in this offense. And that kind of staple that Montgomery's had to claim here is that he's a workhorse for this offense. His snap count percentage is usually so high, is that now you're starting to see with Herbert being so effective, and Justin Fields running the ball 14 times for over 80 yards, and Herbert's 12 carries going for over 60 yards, just 3 yards fewer than what Montgomery netted on 15 carries. Like, there are other efficient rushers in this offense and other ways to move the ball on the ground that they don't have to turn around and hand Montgomery 20 touches in this offense. So in this matchup where A, it's going to be tougher sliding to begin with, B, Vegas expects a bad game script, and C, you've just got to deal with the other players here. And that's the reality of the situation now. I think that he's still going to be used at a fairly respectable rate, but in this particular matchup, it does cause some concern for me, and I just think that threatened volume is not something I want to really, hang my hat on at the end of the week in terms of starting a player in my lineup. So there you have it. To recap, Michael Carter, Melvin Gordon, Brian Robinson, Najee Harris, and David Montgomery, our 5 must-sit running backs for Week 8 fantasy football. As always, if you enjoyed, drop down, leave today's episode with a like, subscribe. As always, your questions are welcome in the comment section below, and go check out some of our other lineup advice segments for this week on our Week 8 playlist on the channel. So I'll see you guys there. Peace out.